Welcome back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast for practice owners and leaders, where we are obsessed with how to build a successful practice and get a life too. Hi, I'm Chuck Blakeman, and we're going to dive into another topic that helps us make more money in less time, get off the treadmill, and rehumanize dentistry by giving everybody their brain back. Today, I'm with Carrie Webber. She is the Chief Communications Officer and co-owner of Jameson. They're a dental management, marketing, and hygiene coaching firm, and they help dentists and teams become more productive, more profitable, and ultimately more fulfilled in their practicing lives. Carrie's a contributing author to multiple publications on the topics of dental business, leadership, and team development, and she's a presenter on these topics to dental professionals nationwide, and she's a personal friend. Carrie, it's great to have you on our podcast.
Thanks,
today.
Chuck. It's such a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. We're going to have you on multiple times as often as we can, because I know people want to hear what you have to say. Today, we're going to talk about think like a journalist, practice building a strategic plan. I have no idea what that means, and I didn't even want you to coach me on it to begin with. I just liked it and said, let's do that. Think like a journalist, practice building a strategic plan. So take it away. What does that mean to you?
Well, as you know, you work with dental practices nationwide as well. Our team works with dentists and teams across the country, helping them see their practice, the ideal practice vision, come to life. Often those relationships, those conversations start from a place of stuckness. And doctors, leaders, practice owners, business owners, they know that they're stuck in something in their business right now, but they don't know how to free themselves from that. And often what I find as a fellow business owner, sometimes when you're in the weeds, when you're in the trenches, so to speak, of your own business, it's very difficult to keep from making these decisions or identifying what to work on as simple as possible. We try to complicate things to the nth degree, and then we end up not making any progress whatsoever. So I wanted to give a different perspective, look at things from a different direction to help people get out of where they are and see a strategy to move forward, strategic planning, so to speak. So when you think like a journalist, investigative journalists do a lot of preparation before they're having their interviews, or they're spending time with a person to work on their story. And one of the first things they learn in good journalism is the 5 W's and the H, which are who, what, when, where, why, and how. And the reason I take it to this simplified level is if you take those questions alone and put them in any of the categories of your business or your practice that you're working on, it can make a lot of sense. Whether you're working on your practice vision, whether you're trying to determine a great approach or a great message or a great target for marketing, whether you're setting goals, doing strategic planning, whether you're doing case presentation and asking questions to a patient. Those questions can be the peeling of the onion, so to speak, to get you either the clarity that you need or the direction in which you want to go.
So let me back you up on this. I love this, but let's back up and let's apply this to this topic right here, and let's ask the why question. Most dentists listening to this might be looking at this and saying, isn't that for Apple to be thinking about strategic plans? I'm a dentist. Now, today I need to do dentistry, and tomorrow I need to do dentistry. Then the day after that, I need to do something else, dentistry. So what's this? There's just 9 of us. Why do I need a strategic plan? That just sounds like something that a giant corporation needs.
You speak to this, Chuck. You talk about the big why. And I think, what dentists, a lot of times, you have those dentists that completely understand, I am a clinician and I'm a business owner. But then you also have the reluctant entrepreneur, which is the dentist that really, I want to do the dentistry. That's what I went to school for. That's what I want to focus on. But they're stuck in the business of the practice. They don't know how to move forward so they can do the type of dentistry they want to do. And so to think about why did I choose dentistry in the first place? Why is this important to me? What are the important values that I bring to the table for my patients? What kind of dentistry do I ultimately want to be doing? Who would be the kind of patient that would appreciate the kind of care that I provide, and so on? Because having that ideal practice vision in place and having a lot of clarity and thinking through those questions, thinking through that why, helps you build the building blocks that you need for your practice to be healthy. And my husband always asks this question to doctors when they're trying to identify that why together. He'll say, if you weren't a dentist, what would you be? And they're always like, oh, and typically there's always a quick question. And what my husband Jess likes to say, he's the CEO of our company, and he'll say, you know, what would drive you to be that is also what drives you to be a dentist. And because it's a part of the core of the who that we are, the big why is why we do what we do, what's important and how we care for our patients. It's important to be clear on that, because that, and if we're clear on that, we communicate that clarity with our team and with our patients, that's going to attract the kind of patients that are looking for that why as well.
That's awesome. I think one of the things you're speaking to here in my mind is that most of us have been taught through everything from hunting mastodons on through dental school that we should think short term. You know, the last mastodon has been eaten. Where's the next one? And I'm just thinking one mastodon or one patch of berries ahead. It's a survival mindset. And then we get out of dental school and we're taught the same thing. How do I get through the month? I got a lease to pay. And I got employees and staff members to pay. Team members to pay. How do I get through the month? And then 20 years later, we wake up and we're in the same place we were 20 years earlier because we never really thought about where we were going.
And you know, where are we going is that journey to the vision. And your vision may change, or you might meet a vision and you may recast to a new vision over, the course of your career. Doctors that have practiced for 30 years, their vision at the 30-year mark is probably pretty different from their vision at the 5-year mark. But the purpose, the why, is a driving factor that doesn't change, because the why is that internal piece that helps me make healthy decisions for myself, for my team, for my patients, for my business. And it's an important question to be able to have an answer for, because, when it's a hard month, when it's a hard week, what's going to get you up out of bed in the morning? And what's going to keep you going and keep the spark of what you loved about dentistry in the beginning alive for 30, 40 years?
So how do we get everybody to buy off on this? I have a strategic plan, or I want to put together a strategic plan for my practice. How do I go about that? How do I get people involved?
I'm a big fan, a huge proponent, as I know you are, of strategic planning, goal setting, action planning, because we can talk circles around what we wish we had, and it's just that, it's a wish. But we have to have a strategy to get us toward where it is we want to go and where we're wanting to end up. And writing it down, giving it detail, bringing it to life is so important. Making it actionable. Who's going to be responsible? When are we going to do this? And helping you see it as it could really be, and taking it one bite at a time. I never understood why it was, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I mean, what does that even mean? I mean, nobody wants to eat an elephant. But the idea is, when you think about the vision, the end, it can be so overwhelming if you're really far away from where you want to go. But pairing in and asking these simple questions, what does it look like? Writing it down, giving it that imagery, and then working your way back to say, what do we need to do tomorrow to take the first step forward? Strategic planning doesn't have to be, it's not brain surgery. It's really giving yourself permission and a path forward for progress.
Carrie, I think we're on the same page on this. We've been using the term strategic planning the whole time. We should probably clarify that for some that hear strategic planning and then in this same breath hear in their head plan.
Mm.
I'm not a fan of business plans. I think business plans are voodoo and fortune telling.
Mm.
A business plan doesn't operate the way that you talked about. A business plan is something I put together sometime late in January or early February, which I should have done in December for January 1st, but it already communicates I really don't care. I really don't need it. And then I put this thing together, and then I actually try and do it for the rest of the year, as if there's some kind of genius fortune telling that I can do that will allow me to just walk this thing out. The world is changing fast. Our practice is changing too fast. There's too many outside variables to make that work. A strategic plan is something that you do the way that you just talked about. What do I want when I'm done this year or 10 years from now or both? Mm-hmm. And then the next step isn't how do I put together all the steps to get there. The next step is what do I do in the next 2 to 3 or 4 weeks to get there?
Yes.
And that's not voodoo. That's not fortune telling. I can take control of the next 2 to 4 weeks and I can do something. And frankly, it may not be the right something, but it's all I've got. And if it's not the right something, I will know that and it will lead me to something else I probably can do that will actually help me get there. Either way, planning doesn't create movement. Movement creates the plan. Yes. And that's what a strategic plan is all about, is it's planning as you go. You have this place you want to end up, and then you're constantly asking yourself, what should I do next? What's the next bite of the elephant? And we do it one little step at a time, and we grope our way forward. But the more we grope our way forward, the clearer it becomes what we should be doing. And that's important because we've been taught to just hang out and wait for stuff to get figured out before we actually, we were taught that in dental school. Everywhere else is, if you can think of anything that might go wrong, don't do anything. Mm-hmm. Get all of the possibilities figured out and all of the contingencies in place and then move. It doesn't work. You've got to get moving. And as you get moving, as long as you know that you don't know everything, you won't run into any brick walls. You'll figure it out as you go. And so I think that's an important modifier in this, is know exactly where you want to end up with utter clarity financially and time-wise and activity and purpose and all that stuff. And then know exactly what you want to do in the next 2 to 4 weeks to figure that out, and then do it again 2 to 4 weeks from now.
I prefer action planning because, taking action, it's exactly as you just shared so eloquently is, what I love to end a meeting on is, if I'm going to have a meeting talking about all the things we need to do to get to where we want to go, I don't want to end that meeting without knowing what are we going to do next. What's the next step? So as I'm thinking and planning for whatever it is that I'm working on, I can get so overwhelmed and paralyzed in the overwhelm if I think of it big picture constantly. I have to know what's that first thing I can do. And then when I accomplish that next step, God, what a great feeling. I took the first step. And it's amazing what momentum does. Giving yourself momentum. It really starts to build faster than you think. And we really, for your team to celebrate the wins, the small wins along the way as you're attacking a vision that you have for maybe it's a certain area of your practice or your practice as a whole, whatever the case may be. If we're celebrating, look what we've done, look how far we've gotten, look what we're getting, okay, then now what's next? And assigning the details to the what's next, celebrating the accomplishments when they're there. If we didn't accomplish that next step, let's do some refining. What do we need to work on? What needs to be different? What's the next approach? So that it doesn't feel so overwhelming that we just do nothing. I always like to say progress is progress, no matter how small. And I would rather us all be making progress to what's going to bring us the most joy and fulfillment in our professional lives than to do nothing and be stuck in where we are that we don't want to be. That's what leads people to burnout. That's why doctors call and they tell me, I'm not in love with dentistry anymore. I feel like I'm just going to a job. And because they're stuck in a reality of their dental practice that they don't want to be in. And it's going to take some rolling up of the sleeves, and it's going to take some commitment. But to get focused, to answer the simplest of questions, if you don't like where you are now, in your mind's eye, where do you want it to be? What does that look like? And that's why asking these really simple questions can help get us out of the mindset, the cloud that we're living in, to stay in that plateau or wherever it is that we may be in our practices.
So I think one of the things I'm hearing is that people end up being in one of two places, and neither of them are healthy. They end up being in the present, where they're only thinking about the tyranny of the urgent and what they need to get done in order to pay their bills this month. And then 20 years later, they're in the same place. Or they end up thinking about, where do I want to be? I want to be at this nirvana place 15 years from now that seems unattainable. And so I just don't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want to do is figure out where we want to be.
Yeah.
We'll never get there. Isn't that great? Then wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, it's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
Well, not that way. So control of today, instead of using today to get through today, use today to get through tomorrow. Use today to get through 5 years from now. What can I do today, this week, in the next 2 weeks? What if we did one strategic thing every 2 weeks that took us 2 hours? And we had 2 hours every 2 weeks and then 4 hours a month. And we would invest 100 hours in doing something strategic, 2 hours at a time, 1 hour a week, basically. That would transform your practice. One of my favorite questions is, are you making decisions based on where you are or on where you want to be? Because if you're making decisions based on where you are, where do you think you'll be next week, next month, next year? That's a lack of a strategic plan. We need to make decisions based on where we want to be, not where we are. And that changes the way we live today. So where do I want to be? Therefore, what should I do today? We didn't make this stuff up. Stephen Covey didn't make it up, but he clarified it. Start with the end in mind.
Yes.
But then start.
Yes. I think about what you say, Chuck, all the time, the tyranny of the urgent. I think of that statement that you introduced to me so frequently, because busyness feels like we're being productive. And
yes.
You know what I mean? And how could I possibly prioritize time in my day to work on something like strategy? Or the action item, identifying the need. And if we could allow ourselves permission as owners of these practices to give time to be the business owner and work on the practice, not just in the practice, and it can make such a big difference. And it's an endurance race. You've got to be ready and committed to persevere. If you're stuck in something, if you're not where you want to be and you want to get somewhere else, it's going to take effort. It's going to take planning. It's going to take preparation. It's going to take being proactive. It's going to take doing something different than what you're doing now, which is always uncomfortable. And it's going to take a commitment to realize, okay, I recognize now where I am. I see where I want to be, and I recognize I'm going to have to do something about it and commit the time and intention and effort to get to that first step.
So if people are working out, they're all distracted by the tyranny of the urgent, and it's sucking the life out of them, and they feel like hostages to their practice. Why will a strategic plan be something they should add to that noise? What will it do to help them? Let's give them a motivation to actually do this.
Yeah, it gives you, it clarifies. If you sit and you think through where you want to be and get clear on where you are now, and you think of what's the first thing that I need to work on, you're instantly looking at the systems of your practice, the culture of your practice, the way that you're attracting patients or the way that your day-to-day runs, what's causing the chaos that's crippling you right now. And it allows you to really think through. I think more often than not, we all as practice owners, practice leaders can identify one thing that we're avoiding that we know we need to work on that would instantly make our lives a little bit better. mean, would you agree?
But it's too much. Yeah, it's too much hassle, or there might be some conflict in it. People might not like me for a few minutes or a few weeks. Yeah, there's some rub that I'd have to push against, and I'm just not sure I want to push on that. I'm too busy doing dentistry. I got enough problems.
Yeah.
Just at the chair side and the operatory. Well, I think that's a huge motivation if people hear this well. And when you were talking, I think of the practices that are running really well day to day. People who are envious of that say, well, look how well theirs runs day to day. Mine's a mess day to day. I would say without fail, the ones that are really running well, that run through my mind, the ones that are running well tactically day to day, are focused on where do we want to end up. And the ones that are running really badly day to day are the ones who are focused on how do I get through this week. It's the ironic sort of or intuitive thing that in order to fix the chaos you have today, you have to think about what do I want down the road. And then to your point, then you will start addressing today's systems, today's processes, today's character of your culture, today's values, the way people are behaving in your practice today. All of that will become important because you have somewhere you need to go. If you have nowhere you need to go, then as Alice in Wonderland's, whoever it was, the cat, or, I think it was Cheshire Cat said, any road will do. Yeah.
And, I also believe, at the thought of if this sounds overwhelming, or if this sounds very, utopian to people, I think it's important to remember, if you allow yourself the time and the focus to get clear on that why, the where, the who, the what, the how, of what ideally you want that to look like. If it's right, it feels right to you. And the moment you're clear on it, you cannot accept less than that. It will be a driving force to create the action plans, the action items, and then, casting that clarity and vision to your team, getting them on board and having buy-in from them of, this is what we're going to be about. There are, in practices we work on, there are action plans slapped on bulletin boards and break rooms all over the place of team members that are assigned action items to help move the needle. And the only way that those happen, and there's enthusiasm in that process, is that clarity from the leader that is embraced and is in shared sense of ownership from the team.
Well, it's a great way to end this podcast on that note, because I think that should be motivating enough to everyone that they put together a strategic plan, not because they need to have some giant plan for the future, but because it really works its way out in today. Your today will be a much better place today because you're thinking about, where do I need to be tomorrow? I need to fix today or I'll never get to tomorrow. But fixing today just to fix today, it's not motivating. I've got too much else on my plate. So let's figure out, where do we want to go? This is a great time of year to be thinking about that stuff. What do you want out of the next 12 months? And then why do you want it? And then how are you going to get that? And who will help you get there? And when will you get there? I can say with clarity that why and when are the two most important questions in business and least asked questions in business. And they form the foundation of every strategic plan. Why do I want something? And then when will I get there? When will I actually decide I'm going to do this? So the why is that direction, the place we want to end up being at. It's a where as well, but it's more of a why. And then the when is, how often am I going to ask the question, when do I actually want to get this done? And then you get into the who's going to do it and all that stuff. But I love your approach to this. It's so important for us, for our listeners. Let's make sure you guys get out there and build a simple little strategic plan. Don't torture this. Just come up with something that works on a regular basis that you can lead your team with, that everybody has put in, and make sure that building it, because input equals ownership. Carrie, this has been a great time to be with you. How can people get a hold of you?
Thanks, Chuck. You can visit our website at jamesonmanagement.com, Jameson management, all spelled out.com. You have great resources there, great ways to measure your success in your practice systems from personal reflection. And also you can reach out to myself and my team directly through the website. So jamesonmanagement.com. Hope to see you visiting there soon and looking forward to connecting.
Thanks, Carrie. This has been fun. Really appreciate you. Keep going.
Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate you too. This podcast is an incredible resource, so thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Privileged to have you on. If this podcast was helpful, please subscribe by computer or by phone, or connect with us at www.gottsummit.com, 2 T's, GOTT summit.com. That stands for Get Off the Treadmill. We have those summits quarterly for dental practitioners only. Or connect with us at www.chuckblakeman.com or email us at grow@cranksetgroup.com. Let's get off that treadmill. Let's get into the participation age. I look forward to seeing you in the next podcast. Thanks.